Welcome to Bfree Energy. I'm Brielle, an intuitive healer, mystic astrologer with a folklore background who pays respects to all traditions and origins. I hope to bring ancient wisdom to the modern world and help you be free in your energy. Hello, my loves. Thank you again for being here with me in this space we are now cultivating and joining me in Bfree Energy. I am so excited. Your girl's coming back. She's got a third episode for you. Third time's the charm. 333. Actually, my first tattoo ever was 333. I have that on my side in my handwriting. And this 3, an angel number of 333, helps me remember that I'm divinely held. And I absolutely love this reminder. We are all protected and divinely held as we move through all the ebbs and flows and ups and downs of life. So in this third episode today, we're going to explore a few things. So grab your tea, grab your nice drinky, and hopefully you listen to this around the solar eclipse in Aries, around March 29th, March 30th. And we'll be holding and understanding this knowledge around this time of the eclipse and around this particular weekend. And I do believe that this energy can linger for 1 to 2 weeks after the eclipse. So we can still be feeling those energies. And I just want to give this episode as a glimpse to what we can expect during these energies, things to do, things to stray away from doing at this time, some suggestions. So today in this episode, we are going to explore the new moon in Aries, which is the solar eclipse of Aries that's wrapping up this eclipse portal. And this is occurring on March 29th, 2025. It is the second of this set. And as you've heard me talk about, we're in this limbo, we're in this eclipse portal. So this one will be closing out not only the set of this eclipse centered around the spring equinox, but it will also be closing out the strip of eclipses that began in April of 2023. So if you can, look back to this time of your life in April of 2023 and see how that astrology was landing for you. Do you remember anything specific? Do you have a diary? Do you have an astro journal? Anything you can look back to know what you were moving through in April of 2023, this will be closing up that sector. This is an eclipse of closure, and it's closing out this portal as well as the eclipses that began in 2023. And I say that because that's the eclipse that began with the Aries Libra axis in that south and north node in that nodal axis. And now this year with the node shifting, we kind of have two different stories going on. One was wrapping up with the Aries and Libra nodal axis, and then these eclipses that started this year are backed up against the nodal axis now with the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo. So if you have heard my first 2 episodes, I dive into a little bit of that nodal axis, but I may explain that later in a second episode. And just know that this energy will linger. So this episode will have the Aries solar eclipse suggestions as well as Neptune in Aries. Now, this is huge. This is one of the bigger, more rare transits that will happen in 2025, let alone our lifetime. So all the astrologers right now will certainly be talking about Neptune in Aries, And it really brings a nice perspective that is a beautiful marriage with Pluto and Aquarius, and the energy pairs so well with Pluto and Aquarius because Neptune and Aries and Pluto and Aquarius is really kickstarting this new generation and the era of revolution. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'm really thankful that you're here in this space. As this is the first episode that's technically released in Aries season, I would love to read you the affirmation I've written and posted on my website for Aries season. We can hold this mantra at the forefront all Aries season, or if you have Aries placements that are dominant in your chart, then maybe this will serve as an empowering mantra you can hold at all times. If you visit my website, it will be on the home page. It's bfree-energy.com, BFREE-ENERGY.com. And I'll do this for each season. So every time we move into a new astrological season, I'll do this affirmation on my homepage. The Aries season affirmation is, I use passion and fire under my motivations. I use creativity as an initiation. I am confident in all that I am. Aries is the I am. Aries embodies the self. Aries is traditionally the first house of the zodiac wheel. And when we see Aries as the newborn and it's coming out kicking and it's the fire element and the cardinal modality, it has no fear. It is the self. Aries embodies I am that, quote, I am. It embodies it to the fullest, and it will do without fear. Aries wants to experience, and that cardinal modality is such a leader. It's a natural born leader, and cardinal is one to take initiative boldly, and it will rise to the occasion. It will be the leader and take on that leadership. So that is the affirmation, y'all. Would love to check that out. And we're going to dive into what this eclipse has in store for us. So the solar eclipse in Aries is a new moon in Aries, and it's occurring this weekend, March 29th. And the day after the eclipse, we have Neptune moving into Aries. So the astrology this weekend is just jam-packed. As Aries is I am, it is all about individualistic expression. And it has this curiosity like a newborn does. And if you listen to my last episode, that had all the lore around the spring equinox, which is newness, new beginnings, renewal. And Aries holds this at its core too. But as we see everything shift from Pisces to Aries, basically everything, the shift from Pisces to Aries still can be seen as a visionary. Most people do attribute Pisces to be the visionary of the zodiac, but I see Aries as that as well because it's fresh eyes, a fresh perspective as it's the beginning of the wheel. So this initiation is basically a launch in time, and we can see that this season. That cardinal modality is a pioneer, and I hope that we don't get so caught up on the hustle and bustle of all of this initiation and rapid fire that can come out because we are in the middle of a period where we have a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde. And I advise that everything truly wait until Venus and Mercury are stationed direct. That will be the time to launch your projects. That will be the time to use that momentum and fire that Aries season gives us. Aries season and the new moon we have is in Aries for the solar eclipse. And it's that double Aries energy. Well, with these luminaries in Aries, we also have Venus and Mercury both in Aries right now. Everything is nudged together in Aries and Pisces, it seems. And so that energy of the self is really a beautiful thing to explore at the moment. But I want you to still be wary because all of the emotions that come up during this time are not emotions to be suppressed. And I say this because eclipses usually are felt at a higher degree. And things can be shaken up during this time. With an eclipse, that would totally be normal, but we even have Mercury and Venus retrograde. So there's just a lot that might be flipped on its head right now. And not to say that this is a scary point. I just want to say hold off on your launches, but keep that passion and momentum. And when they station direct, that's the time to make your move. I just want to be your cosmic friend and guide to hold your hand through all of these energy updates as we always assess the current astrology. With the eclipses, every eclipse is attuned to the nodal axis. And with the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces, this eclipse feels a little bit different because it is the first new moon solar eclipse to happen with these nodes. The nodal axis shifted this January of this year, and there's a lot within 2025 that truly makes this year the one to highlight on your calendar. And one of those things is Neptune in Aries. Neptune is an outer planet that rules everything for the dream realm. You see it as the ocean, the seas, water. Neptune is so dreamy in a fantastical fantasy way. And Neptune will stay in each sign that it is in for 13 to 14 years at a time. Now, this year, it will retrograde in October. So it, in October, will dip back into Pisces. And as you look to a planet through a telescope with an astronomical lens, that is where the term retrograde comes from, because these planets appear, quote unquote, appear to be moving backwards on their path. So Neptune will enter Aries this Saturday, March 30th, the day after the solar eclipse in Aries, and it will stay in Aries until October, and in its retrograde, it will dip back into Pisces. And then in January of 2026, it re-enters Aries. Then it will stay indefinitely for its course until 2039. So honestly, that gives us a glimpse right now of how Neptune will be and how it will be acting and what it will be like in Aries energy until October. And then we'll see it stay in January of 2026. This really connects to you personally if you have cardinal modalities. If your signs and personal placements, sun, moon, rising, big three, if your personal placements have Cancer, Aries, Libra, or Capricorn, then you will have these cardinal modalities for each of those signs. And this eclipse and Neptune in Aries will be more potent for you because of the cardinal modalities. Check to see in your chart where Neptune is for you, and then try to see where this eclipse is landing for you. If you have Neptune in the 12th house, that would be the last house of the wheel. 12th house is all about the hidden, it's like foggy. It's like the hidden, the subconscious, the dream realm, the astral realm. And to have Neptune in your 12th house, that could be a way that with illusionment and fantasy and the dream realm of how Neptune as a planet governs those themes, that could be showing up in your 12th house in a way that connects you to the dream realm, in a way that maybe you get messages through your dreams, or you feel like psychic themes are highlighted in your dreams, and maybe you astral travel when you sleep. And just look at where Neptune is in your chart to see how this transit might, be highlighting that house for you. You can message me if you have a question for that. I'll for sure just be on Instagram or through email able to help you with that. But I could see with the folklore of Neptune being the god of the sea, all eyes on the oceans and the waters and the seas, and maybe even the pollution in the waters, or the fight for ownership or the naming of ownership of the seas. Maybe like what country or leader or some sort of like authority power wants to conquer or name, or somehow I could see something with the oceans and seas and bodies of water being kind of in the spotlight or in the news. But in a health aspect, we are also made of water, and we know that we are majority water and how this can pull on us. This almost seems like such a spiritually retrospective time. And with the water theme, flooding here could metaphorically happen. Things come flooding in for you. Or we also on a world stage may see the physical flooding of different environments across the world based on Neptune moving into Aries and having this initiation and having that cardinal go-getter energy. Neptune is the planet that is the visionary. And I mentioned that I see Aries and Pisces as the visionary. And with Neptune in a sign that has fresh perspective, I really hope that lands for us collectively. But it really may just land for us personally, as Aries is the self. This could be a time between now and the next 13 to 14 years that you embark on a new dream. You're having a new vision. You're kind of course correcting. I urge you to dream bigger. I urge you to upgrade in what you believe for yourself. And this can honestly be a time to reach for the stars. And I hope that you do. So when was it that Neptune was last in Aries? Well, since it enters a sign every 13 to 14 years, we have not seen Neptune in Aries in this lifetime, nor will we ever again. We will also not see Neptune in Pisces ever again in our lifetime. And Neptune in Pisces has been, for the past 13 years for us, a time of illusionment, a time of spirituality, and the collective has really grown and come to terms with esoteric themes and philosophies being modernized and a little mainstream. And really that's because Pisces is the 12th house, 12th sign. And you can see all of these questions on religion and spirituality and everything kind of being viewed through this fantastical lens that Neptune brings. The last time Neptune was in Aries was in 1861. And guys, in 1861, when Neptune was in Aries, it was a day within the U.S. Civil War. I mean, that was a time that was a fight over slavery, and then it was abolished legally in 1865, a few years later, with Neptune still in Aries. And there's that fight for the underdog. There's that protection for these minority groups. And when Neptune was in Aries in the 1300s, Neptune was in Aries from 1370 to 1383. And during that time was when there was the Peasants' Revolt in England. Now, the peasants weren't even allowed to leave the manor that they were tied to. That's slavery in that sense, too. And that was a historic time that they fought for more equal rights. So we can almost see that this theme of sticking up for what's right and fighting for a collective group and rooting for the underdog and bringing this up for protection, equal rights, abolishing slavery. We could see that these themes may be a trajectory to project what we may be what we may be to experience in this next transit of Neptune and Aries. And I hope that there is so much more peace. And I hope that we navigate the murky waters and political conversations with more love and more equality. Now, I will say in 1863, you may have heard other astrologers bring this up too. In 1863, the Red Cross was founded, and that is still an amazing resource. So, when the Red Cross was founded, we are looking after the health, we are looking after the public, we are giving resources. These organizations really sprung up during that time. They took action, Aries energy, taking action. They sprung up to take action and protect for the underprivileged. So this is a clear theme historically, and we'll be eager to see how this plays out for us. So as you are navigating the eclipse and Neptune in Aries with Aries season, I just want you to hold your dreams at the forefront and keep that fire under your feet and keep that passion lit. There's so much creativity and intuition within Aries. And even though it is the newborn, wide eyed, fearless, bold, brave warrior, it still has bigger dreams and it still holds a vision for wellness. And Aries is also kind of like physical activity and the physical self because it is the first house. So this can be our appearance, this can be fitness, this can be physical activity, as in being outdoors or working out or what your fitness really looks like to you. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to take this time to obviously hone in on the magic of the stars and use Aries season to make me move mindfully. So I'm going to start incorporating some stretching and yoga. I'm excited for that. Like I said, you don't have to embark on that momentum just yet because we're in that retrograde period. So I'm going to start with the light stretching and yoga at home, and then I'm going to switch up my gym and start joining some classes, after the retrograde period. That sounds awesome. That's when you really want to embark on something like that. That's a change. I may revisit Venus retrograde really quick because I have had some of my friends text me, and I love that I'm that friend. But I just want to highlight Venus in retrograde. Everyone is kind of used to Mercury's retrograde 3 or 4 times a year. Mercury is the planet of communication styles, it's technology, it's emails, it's texts, it's how we are really communicating to one another. And when Mercury is in a certain house transiting for you upon your natal chart, then that's going to show the house and the themes of life that really need your attention right now. So when we are going through these retrograde periods, they bring up things that we maybe have been ignoring, putting off for later, suppressing, not paying attention to. And the things are brought to our attention so that we think about them, put them on our to-do list, take care of them, fix them, what have you. So during the periods of retrograde for Venus and Mercury, there will be things that are coming up that we may have suppressed. And this is a time, especially with the eclipse, that hosts a lot of emotional processing. I want you to take your emotions for what they are and feel them when they come up. Feel them to, the best degree in that setting that you can feel them, because this is when things need to be addressed. It is no longer something you can bury down. And, that's in retrospect going to help our overall well being, right? It's not healthy for suppression, and you don't want to get to a boiling point. And I'm really saying this because, yes, Mercury is communication styles, and we will have things get lost in the mail, or you didn't get my email, or you didn't understand what I was saying, or someone can't read your tone through text, something like that. But I'm really saying this because of Venus retrograde. Now, this is more rare, and Venus is in Aries, but Venus retrograde will really be highlighting our relationships right now and our committed partnerships. So, where Venus is in your chart is going to show the the ways in which you are relating to that person or that area of life. And if you have a roommate, a partner, someone you work with closely, someone you collaborate with, these are all kind of our committed partnerships. Whether it's friends or family or boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, husband, whatever, that is just a time to really communicate with them clearly and let them know what's up. Let them know where you're at. If you're lacking, if you're upset, if you feel you're putting in most of the effort, if you feel even positively, if you want to say, hey, thank you for your constant support. Hey, thank you for, you know, doing the dishwasher for me and getting my laundry ready for the next day. Something like that. If you can recognize their love language, then you can really compliment them and that notice will go a long way. Or if it's something that you've been struggling with and you say, "Oh, maybe that's not something big. Maybe I'll talk about that later." It's a time now to take stock, take inventory of those feelings and begin to formulate that approach and say, this is a conversation I think we need to have. And I know that these are hard. I know hard conversations and confrontation can be so scary, but it will be so worth it in the end. And this astrology is kind of murky weather. And to know that it's no longer supposed to be suppressed will probably encourage you to have these hard conversations, knowing that on the other side of them, they are productive, they are beneficial, and they are harmonious. And that's what Venus is, right? It's harmony, it's fairness. It rules Libra and Taurus. Libra is the scales, like the lawyer, the mediation. Taurus is the indulgence and the material and the builder. Venus is the planet of love and beauty and poetry and fertility, but it's also where we have our relationship and our committed partnership and the styles in which we love. It's how we love and how we think and how we feel. So I just want you to take stock of these emotions. And during Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, these things are bound to happen. But I hope you don't have fear for when they do come up. I hope that you feel you are able to know, hey, this came up for a reason. Hey, this was, called to my attention and that's actually beneficial for me because I forgot about it for 4 weeks or something like that. Okay, so as you know, Neptune in Aries will be this weekend, and the day before will be the solar eclipse new moon in Aries. I want to reiterate that this time, again, will bring up a lot of emotional processing. But it's not the time to manifest. It's not the time to do your manifestation rituals or do any spell work or do any major decisions, especially with Mercury and Venus retrograde. It's not the time to get into a new partnership. It's not the time to sign your contracts. It's just a lot of this outer influence that I feel makes everything kind of foggier and our emotions will so be heightened. And that's why I hold off manifesting or doing anything important or making any, rash decisions or changes because we will be able to have clarity on the other side of this eclipse. And when Mercury and Venus, when they both station direct, we will have more clarity. So let this time be a time where you feel all the feels and let your dreams dream bigger and keep that momentum for later and let that marinate. This threshold from Pisces to Aries is one we will experience in a lot of different ways this year. And I know that that can feel like a lot, and it is deep, but the depth is so beautiful. And if it feels overwhelming, I'm here. I'm with you. I'm experiencing my own things as well. And if you ever have questions, just know that you can reach out to me and I'm your astro bestie. But that threshold from Pisces to Aries really sets the tone for anew and renewal. So I hope that we keep this in mind and kind of feel this energy for the next week or two after the eclipse. We'll feel a taste of what Neptune in Aries looks like until October. But then come May, and I'll talk about it later in May, Saturn later will enter Aries on May 25th, 2025, which will be 52525. Oh my gosh, I just realized that. Oh my gosh. So again, Saturn in Pisces right now until May, we'll be experiencing until it moves into Aries. And that is another example of this threshold. This is pretty rare astrology, and as a country that's only 200 years old, it's really interesting because there's only few examples in history that we can look back to with the outer planets moving. And I want to reiterate, your personal planets are Mars, Venus, and Mercury, and then your luminaries are your sun and moon, and your angle is your rising. So the big three is known as sun, moon, and rising. There are 4 angles in astrology, with the rising being your ascendant, then you have your descendant, and then you have the midheaven and the IC. Midheaven is MC, and IC is Latin, which is like vertical, so it's like the lower point, and the midheaven is the highest point. And then horizontal is the ascendant on the left, which is your rising, and on the right is your descendant. And these are just angles and where the sun was on the horizon when you were born. So if you have any questions about your birth chart, I am so here as a resource. I love to help you through eclipse seasons around the equinoxes. And after this eclipse this weekend, we will have some calm waters. And then we'll have, for the fall equinox, the lunar and solar eclipse later in the fall during October. But this is closing a chapter from 2023 again. And if you don't really remember what was happening during that time of your life, I like to go back in my photo albums. And you can go back on your phone in your camera roll and just look around that time, what was occurring, what was your hair, where were you living, like the selfies really show us where we're at, Just kind of see if you can recall anything about that time that stood out to you. And I'm wishing you all the love under the Aries I am energy, knowing that we are bold and courageous and passionate. All right, y'all, I'm here for you whenever you need. You can find my services at www.bfree-energy.com. I have a plethora of readings at varieties of costs, and I love to offer knowledge first and foremost. So in honor of educating, I have freebies on my website too. So that means I can send you a voice memo reading over any placement you ask me about in your chart. And I would really love to explore how the eclipse lands for you. So in this freebie, we can look to your south and north node, or we can just look at where Aries is in your chart because there's so much Aries energy, or we can look to how the moon is transiting over your natal chart for the solar eclipse new moon in Aries. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you stay authentic and true to yourself, confident this week in who you are to your core, and know that you can be free in your energy. All right, my loves. Till next time.